Hi, my name's Francesca Fanshawe. I'm the Editorial Director for International at MIT Technology Review Insights. Welcome to the webinar. In November, we published the Blue Technology Barometer, an index which measures the extent to which countries around the world are working to build a more sustainable future for the ocean. The publication of the project came shortly after the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, in which Prince Albert II of Monaco launched the third Because the Ocean Declaration, in which he noted the critical role that oceans play in the fight against climate change. Oceans absorb over a quarter of the world's carbon dioxide emissions and most of its excess heat. There are many fronts on the raging war on the health of the world's oceans. Climate change is leading to warming water temperatures, rising sea levels, and disturbances in ocean salinity. Increased protein consumption is driving fishing to unsustainable levels, and systemic failures to manage waste have led to 150 million tons of plastic in our oceans today. A growing number of technologies and tech-enabled processes, known collectively as Blue Technology, are becoming important in several contexts that can help mitigate the effects of climate change or restore health to marine ecosystems. Science and nature-based approaches are addressing environmental degradation and increasing decarbonisation. And Blue technologies are harnessing and managing information and data around maritime commercial activities through sensors and AI-enabled analytics. For the Blue Technology Barometer, we set out to establish how far countries have progressed in their commitment to protect and restore the world's oceans. To do this, we selected 66 coastal countries or territories and ranked their progress and commitment to ocean sustainability. To reach this ranking, each country was given a score out of 10 for 4 main areas or pillars. These were Pillar 1, Ocean Environment, which measured a country's levels of marine water contamination, plastic recycling efforts, its CO2 emissions from marine activities, and the recent change to total emissions. Pillar 2, Marine Activity, which measured how sustainable a country's marine activities are, including shipping, fishing, and protected areas. Pillar 3, Technology Innovation, the highest weighted pillar in the index, which measured a country's contribution to sustainable ocean technology research and development, including expenditure, patents, and startups. And finally, Pillar 4, Policy and Regulation, which measured a country's stance on ocean sustainability-related policy and regulation, including national-level policies, taxes, fees and subsidies, and the implementation of international marine law. Having ranked each country according to the 4 pillars, we calculated an overall score out of 10 for each. The UK took the top spot in the ranking with a total score of 7.83. Followed closely by Germany with a total score of 7.54. Through our research, we found that the UK has substantial research and development in maritime and sustainability technologies. It operates the world's largest operational offshore wind farm, a 50-megawatt facility off the coast of Scotland. The UK is also the first major economy to account for shipping emissions in its 2021 national carbon budget, which aims to reduce total national emissions by 78% by 2035. Germany too ranked highly in technology innovation, and the German government has been a strong advocate and investor in coastal marine conservation at home and abroad. Innovation in Germany includes an offshore farm project which combines blue mussel and seaweed cultivation at a wind energy production site that could reduce ocean pollution levels. Also in the top 10, Nordic countries featured highly, with Denmark in 3rd place, Finland in 5th, Norway in 6th, and Sweden in 8th place. All of these countries have deep digital technology innovation ecosystems with numerous links to maritime economies and a global approach to sustainability. In May 2021, for example, Finland's government adopted a resolution to pressure international agencies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from maritime and inland waterway transport. South Korea, at 9th position, is the only non-Western economy in the top 10. It is the world powerhouse in blue technology IP. In 10 years, South Korea has registered more patents for ocean sustainability technologies than the next 7 economies combined, 9,700 patents. That's 3 times more than the US in 4th position, which has the second highest number of ocean sustainability patents. Many US patents are in coastal protection and low carbon fuel for marine transport. Canada rounded off the top 10 in the ranking. Innovators in Canada are developing carbon neutral solutions for the transport of goods and people, including green fuels and the electrification of larger vessels, including ferries. Further down the rankings, we found that a number of major economies appear to be making uneven progress in ocean sustainability. China, for example, in 17th position overall, has a strong focus on decarbonising its economy, including blue technology and renewable offshore power. Yet its expansive deep-water fishing industry indicates poor efforts to contribute to international marine conservation. The country's distant water fishing fleet is thought to be around 5 to 8 times larger than previously estimated, and nearly 40% are trawlers, which have a big impact on biomass and diversity. Japan, too, in 11th position, fosters a highly R&D-driven industrial economy. Its government is looking to transform its maritime industries through a program that aims to develop a carbon-neutral ocean vessel by 2028. Yet it scores poorly in reducing carbon emissions and is making slow progress on ocean health. Countries towards the bottom of the index we have named the strivers. Our research found that many of these countries seem to struggle with balancing maritime industry with ocean conservation, with economic pressures often running counter to sustainable development. Vietnam, for example, in 47th position, has several blue economy development goals, but these are overshadowed by the government's efforts to make Vietnam's 28 coastal cities and provinces account for at least 2/3 of its GDP by 2030. And Costa Rica, in 40th position in the ranking, is famously a world leader in ecosystem preservation. Its government is staunchly committed to making conservation part of its economic development. The country recently vetoed a law authorizing trawler fishing in the country's waters, with the backing of most legislators. But Costa Rica still struggles to meet the levels of technology innovation found elsewhere. Joining me today to speak about the successes and challenges of ocean sustainability are Kendra MacDonald, CEO of Canada's Ocean Supercluster, an industry-led national cluster that's working to grow the ocean economy in a digital and sustainable way, and Millie Pitts, the CEO and Executive Director of Ocean Exchange, which helps organizations advance and promote cutting-edge solutions and innovations. Welcome, both of you. I'd like to start by asking you both what prominent blue technology you're seeing out there at present, perhaps in terms of innovation and the advancement of cutting-edge solutions. Kendra, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so maybe just a few buckets that we're seeing in terms of our projects. So one is certainly in the environmental monitoring space. So several projects with sensors, UAVs, and tracking technologies. We're seeing several technologies in the onshore, offshore communications. So whether that's digital twins and virtual replicas to be able to manage assets offshore, or remote worker technologies, again, to be able to enable more of that work to be off the water and onshore. And then a couple of sectors where we're seeing a lot of activity. One is in emissions reduction from marine transportation, and we're seeing, I think it was mentioned, the green fuel space, so lots in the alternative fuel space. And the other one is aquaculture, so continuing to bring technologies to improve the sustainability of the aquaculture sector.
Great, thank you. And Millie, what are you seeing at the Ocean Exchange?
I want to echo Kendra's comments about emissions reductions in maritime. And we see some particular emphasis on cold ironing or shore power. How big ships are going to operate out in the middle of the ocean is a huge challenge, and I think we're still quite a ways from solving. But how they reduce emissions while they're in port is probably more easier solved. Not easier, but easier. The other thing that I want to comment in addition to Kendra's comments is data and the use of autonomous vehicles. And even though autonomous vehicles have been around for 10 years, and I'm talking about ocean autonomous vehicles, of course, we're starting to see advanced use cases for them. There is a workforce element to it. So you might be taking ships out of service that use people, but they burn a lot of fossil fuels, and autonomous vehicles doing those missions. The big challenge in the area of autonomous vehicles is the business case. Do you sell the autonomous vehicles? Do you sell services? Do you sell data? But we see a lot in that area. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Kendra, in the Blue Technology Barometer, we see that some countries are making uneven progress across areas such as policy and regulation compared to, say, technology innovation. How can countries develop and improve collaboration between government and industry to further the ocean agenda?
So that's a great question. I think the Ocean Supercluster is an example of that, of where government really put in place innovative policy and put it in the hands of industry. We are industry-led, and so that really demonstrates trust. And I think that's really important, is government and industry working together on a common vision and also trusting each other in terms of being able to do that. And so, we will not solve these problems without being able to work together. So thinking through innovative policy, bringing industry to the table, incenting industry to participate, but also just putting the right framework in place to set them up to go, I think is incredibly important.
Excellent. And what do you see as kind of key elements of that kind of framework?
Yeah, so I think investment is part of it. I think regulatory policy is another part of it. So helping to remove regulatory barriers. I think Millie talked about autonomy and autonomous solutions, but often what is getting in the way, certainly for us when it comes to UAVs and the use of UAVs, is some of the regulatory barriers. So how do we work with industry to be able to remove those? I think another key role that government can play is around procurement policy. So that's one that we hear is, government is a big procurer of services. So how do they put the right procurement policies in place to be able to encourage growth of the ocean economy?
Yeah, really interesting. And Millie, from the point of view of organizations, how do you see them collaborating to further develop solutions and innovations?
I see a lot, and we're 10 years at this now. And in the very first years, we saw a lot of solutions that I would describe as islands, right? It was cool technology, enthusiastic founders, but they had to fit into a system to be used. The marine debris problem and the resulting solutions for that are a great example. Many of them were not integrated into bigger waste management solutions, whether they're existing companies or other startups. I see some change in that, and people are starting to understand that and I only use that as one example, but if you're going to solve that problem, there has to be a whole integrated system to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there a specific example that you can give in relation to waste management, for example?
The recycling. We had a finalist several years ago that uses AI to try to better identify mixed waste streams, because mixed waste streams are the nightmare of waste management, are they not? If one is going to have an economy with recycled materials or some better use of that waste, and and it was a great solution, and they are trying to integrate with the whole waste management system to make the whole thing work better.
That's fantastic. For both of you now, the world's oceans play a critical role in the fight against climate change, as I mentioned in the introduction. The Blue Technology leaders that we interviewed for this project spoke to the importance of a holistic approach to sustainability that include both ocean and land-based efforts. What do you see, Kendra, perhaps to start, as some of the challenges and/or advantages to such an approach?
Yeah, so I think one of the challenges is there really is sort of a separate network of people that are thinking about, in a lot of cases, what's happening on land versus what is happening on ocean. Certainly for us, from a Canadian perspective, the net zero calculations that we have are not. Let me step back. If you think about the carbon absorption, which you talked about, we don't really understand what is happening. So we know it's changing, but we don't have the level of monitoring that we need to really be able to understand exactly what's happening. And so that's part of the solution, is understanding that better. And then that will better inform the net zero calculations. And then when we're making decisions, we can make sort of all planetary decisions, or all planet decisions, and the trade-offs in a sustainability decision that puts something on land. I think aquaculture is a great example of, what does that look like on land? What does that look like on water? And how do we have that? How do we have that discussion? I think that the other thing is looking at some of our solutions. So, alternative fuels is a great example that will help in terms of sustainability on land. It will also help improve emissions with marine transportation. So we're seeing a number of projects where they're looking at a marine application first, but then they will be able to also bring their solution on land.
Yeah, fantastic. And now, Millie, what do you see as the challenges or success stories, perhaps?
Yeah, this is a topic that we have struggled with for 10 years. In our first 10 years, we were really pushing on a string to look at solutions that had been invented for land and to see if they had marine applications. Some of our sponsors and people that are close to us particularly want us to seek land solutions that could be applied in maritime. And it's a big education and awareness building. A lot of the innovators, the universities, these engineering labs that are focused on land-based solutions aren't even thinking about the maritime applications, quite frankly. And I will use an example of big energy storage, and I'm talking about industrial size energy storage, not the battery in your phone. And we have found very, very interesting solutions, some out of our national labs and some out of other key universities. And when we talk to those innovators and we talk about use cases for maritime, they say that they've never even considered it. It was never on their radar, which I found a great opportunity. I mean, sort of stunning, but a great opportunity. They did not say we considered it, and it's not the first use case because maritime environment is difficult. They said they had never even considered it. So I think there is a great opportunity for all of us in the ocean space to raise this awareness.
Yeah, that's interesting. And how do you see that you could sort of raise the awareness further, or kind of make that communication and increase that kind of collaboration?
At Ocean Exchange, we got a group together in October of 2021 to talk about the decarbonization of maritime, a group of 25 leaders. And we're not going to limit it to that 25, but we will be announcing a communication strategy about this that goes to innovators, all these institutions, investors as well, because they need to see this as an opportunity. And a lot of investors are quite ill-informed about some of these maritime opportunities. So we're going to do a whole education strategy around it, not just Ocean Exchange, but in conjunction with some of our partners.
Fantastic. That sounds really great. Millie, while the pace of innovation in the maritime sector is growing, what are the challenges for sort of broader systemic change do you see? Perhaps this plays a bit into your previous answer in terms of increasing communication between parties.
I'm very passionate about this topic, and I was surprised to see the U.S. at number 4, although that was based on patents, right? Patents don't always translate to commercialization and deployment. We see a disconnect between the work done in a lot of big institutions, so they're universities or research labs, and then getting them out and getting them commercialized. Mm-hmm. A lot of those researchers and founders do not seek to be entrepreneurs. They picked a life's path that is about research. And in the United States, and I can speak to that. I think there is a poor connection between getting all of that great innovation that public and private money has paid for. And if those innovators cannot be entrepreneurs, then finding the right commercialization teams to take these things to market. I think it's one of the big challenges, but it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Kendra, how do you see that countries can improve transnational cooperation when it comes to ocean sustainability? Sort of, I suppose, taking what Millie was just talking about on a sort of commercial level, but thinking more about governments and countries, perhaps.
Yes, there's no question the decisions of one country impact another when we're talking about ocean because of the interconnectedness. The number one question that I get is co-funding. Can we create more mechanisms where we can co-fund projects? Because most programs like ours, we are focused on developing Canadian solutions, which makes sense with government money. But I think increasingly we need to think about ways, if we really want to see international collaboration, how do we develop the right incentives and increase, there are programs out there, but increase the incentives that really encourage transnational collaboration.
Yeah, fantastic. And how do you see that governments could better support blue technology innovation?
I think, we've touched on some of them in terms of whether that is working from a regulatory perspective, whether that is dealing with procurement. I think continuing to invest, thinking about key infrastructure investments that sort of move the whole forward. So one of the discussions I was having earlier is around sensors, right? So there's lots of sensors that are being developed, but sort of getting them into commercial use, being able to move them forward quickly. There's more of a role that can be played. So I think those are some of the places, really thinking through what are some key investments that they can make that moves the whole of the technology sector forward.
Mm-hmm. And are there any particular sort of key investments of technologies that you're thinking of in particular?
So not so much technologies, but I think if we think through sort of aquaculture, for example, and what Norway has done with offshore aquaculture. So they really used policy to be able to drive, the technology development further offshore. I think that's a perfect example of ways that government can really play a role in incenting technology development. I think offshore wind with the UK, another great example of where they made some specific policy decisions that sent technology innovators down a certain path.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. And Millie, the same question to you. How do you see that governments can better support technology innovation in the ocean sector?
I think there's been a sea change, no pun intended, in the US. And it started with the last administration. It's really accelerated with this administration of money that's coming from the Economic Development Administration and DOE in particular. There are others that are actually going to the ecosystem itself. If you go back in time when we started, these funds only went to the startups. And a lot of times the startups don't have the capacity, the knowledge, they need mentorship, they need a lot of help to get going. And now we see government money going into the development and the advancement of incubators, accelerators, and the system that needs to surround these startups and help them. And I think that's a very positive development in the United States.
Yeah, maybe to pile onto that, I think that's what we're seeing in Canada as well. What the Supercluster is trying to do is really strengthen that ecosystem. And different than a lot of other government funding, it is incenting not only the development of startups, which is part of what we do, but it's really trying to get large businesses to innovate and to partner with smaller businesses and to help them really scale up. And I think that we've seen a lot of power in that.
And I will add one more thing on that, if I may. It brings in the power of the private sector. And, we love what the government can do, but the government isn't used to running businesses and developing startups. They can take the risk out, of course, of that, a lot of early funding, and it's a good role for government before the private sector is willing to accept that risk. But they have a great role to play this way, but it connects them with the private sector in a way that is unique.
That's really interesting. Do either of you have specific examples of larger corporations that have already taken steps like this?
Well, so if I look at from a supercluster perspective, so one of our larger projects is focused on developing fish tracking, so Ocean Aware, and they have a partnership between larger companies, they've got smaller companies, we've got energy working with shipping, working with aquaculture, working with DFO, so the Department of Fisheries, working with Dalhousie University, so one of the universities, and they are all coming together and collaborating on being able to develop that technology and the use cases for those technologies. So we have several examples, but that's certainly one of the larger ones that comes to mind.
An example from Ocean Exchange, our largest funder today is Wallenius Wilhelmsen. So we are US based, we're international in scope, they are a Norwegian company, they operate globally. And we operate for them the Orcel Award, which is in a sense a reverse pitch where they describe their needs and we find solutions to help them meet their needs. And the idea is them to pilot and adopt those solutions to solve their big issues of ocean transportation.
Yeah, fantastic. And Kendra, final question. What do you see in the near future as a kind of next step in sort of ocean sustainability and sort of actions that you see the world as taking or countries around the world as taking?
I think one of the big conversations that we are seeing is around carbon capture. So whether that is natural solutions, so we've seen a lot more activity in seaweed, for example, or whether that is in technology solutions. So recently we ran a startup challenge and our Ocean Shot winner was a company that is focused on carbon capture out of air back into water. So that is definitely something where we are seeing an increase in activity.
Fantastic. And the same question to you, Millie. What do you see as the near future big next changes?
I think it's data. I was very honored to be on the NOAA subcommittee for the blue economy in 2020, and NOAA has 10 different verticals the way they address the blue economy, and there are other definitions, and that doesn't matter. But no matter which one we talked about, there was a need to have data to power the solutions, power the way forward. I think we'll see a lot more on how data is used. We have a lot of data today. We don't know how to use it all. That's another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both for your time today. It was really great to speak to you both. If you'd like to find out more about the Blue Technology Barometer, please visit technologyreview.com/BTB. Thank you.